Hey, everybody, welcome back if you're joining us for I'm Possible Live, or welcome if you're popping in for the first time. And I am delighted and honored to introduce you to today's dynamic guest, a beautiful woman who I had the opportunity to meet online in a community I was in for a very short time. And there are no accidents. She reached out with like amazing energy and we hopped on a call and I was just like, oh, the universe is like sending me a talented woman with mad skills. So without further ado, I am delighted to introduce you to the wonderful Lori Robertson of Speak Her Coach. Lori, take it away for a little bit and I promise I will come right back as soon as they get a chance to learn about you and your magic. And if you're joining us on the other end, you know the routine. If you're here before, let us know where you're from. Let us know a way we can help you and enjoy and sit back and relax and grab your pen. I have 3 sets of notes here about Lori. Warning, warning, warning. Grab a pen, grab some paper if you don't have one nearby. And if you don't, definitely listen to the replay and invite somebody to join in. But please, Lori, without further ado, take it away. Let us know about you.
Mel, I'm just thrilled and honored to be here with you today. You have exactly the right energy for this Monday, dreary, chilly where I am, probably the same for you. And I am I'm just thrilled to be here with you. And I need a daily dose of Mel. So I'm thrilled to check that box today. My background is in the world of live events. I'm a speaker and a speaker coach, and my big relevant experience in live events, when I graduated from grad school, I did an internship with a publishing company, and they had a live event division in Dallas, and they produced a big event brand in the faith-based space called Women of Faith. And for 10 years, I had the opportunity to produce these Women of Faith events, and we toured the country in NBA and NHL arenas, 28 or 30 cities a year. And at our peak, our average attendance was 14,000. So it was a remarkable movement of women empowering other women and encouraging and teaching and inspiring week after week in these rooms packed to the ceiling. And my job there as I produced the events was I hired the talent, coached them. I worked with the production team, and I worked directly with our president to lay out the program of those events. It was a 2-day event, life-changing weekend. And then the second half of my time, I was asked to step onto the stage and MC the events, which I did for 5 or 6 years there, and then for another 5 or 6 years for another women's event brand. But what I learned, I remember walking into my first event in Dallas in the American Airlines Center, and the room absolutely was filled up to the top row with over 18,000 women. And I remember leaving that event and thinking, I want to spend the rest of my life producing experiences like this for as many people as I can, for as long as I can. And so for 10 years, I did that at Women of Faith. And then through consulting, I've helped other events create these impactful experiences. But a few years ago, I shifted my focus, still paying strict attention to the people in the seat because that's what it's all about. But I also began to think about those men and women on the platform and the truly magical experience it is for them to walk in front of a group of people, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people, and share out of who they are, the talents they have, the gifts they've been given, the experiences they've lived, the stories, the wisdom they've learned, and share that to help other people. It truly is a 360-degree gift because it's a gift to the people you're serving and helping, and it's a gift to you to step into your purpose and really into joy in a way that only you can when you share out of yourself. So Today, I'm focused on helping professional women leverage public speaking to grow your business, to grow in your career, to grow your mission. And I speak to professional audiences about the power of effective speaking and spoken communication and storytelling.
That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And what I love, and I really appreciate it because I had the chance to join Lori for a 3-day workshop series, which was woo. It was you were on fire, and I mean, really, it's like we search for people to help. We search for people who are offering solutions that feel right for us. And I love it because there was a question that you and I spoke about in terms of sharing it with people, and we were talking about, hey Stephen, hey Shelley, thanks for popping in and joining us, and welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I love when you talked about speaking to these massive audiences, and really that wasn't your first choice of the step to take, that you're kind of following in somebody else who already has these big steps, which really I think adds to kind of the question that you helped us come up with, which is, how can we manage the shakes, the sweats, and the swivers we feel when it's time to speak up?
Yeah, that that really is one of the two questions I get more than any others. The first is, how do you overcome the fear? And the second is, how do I get booked to speak? And so, but I can tell you a lot about the overcoming the fear, because I had nothing but a really awkward college speech class experience when I was asked to start emceeing the Women of Faith events, or to consider it. And I knew it was a great opportunity personally and professionally, but I also was so aware that I really had next to nothing to bring to the table. And compound that by the fact that the only person I'd ever seen MC those events was my boss at the time, the president of Women of Faith, an incredible woman, a masterful communicator, and her name was Mary Graham. And Mary was incredible, and truly she made it look so easy. It looked like she just thought of the perfect thing to say when she was walking up the steps. And so I was contrasting bringing nothing to the table, enormous steps to fill, but I believed Mary when she said she thought I could do it. And so I was determined to give it a try. And I learned some really important lessons through really awkward experiences, my first couple of events. And if we have time, maybe I can tell you about that. But to answer your question, so when I first was stepping on the first weekend, there were 6,000 women in the room. The next weekend, there were 16. And so it really was just straight into the deep end. And I was shaking. It was hard for me to gather my thoughts. And my feet were sweating so badly that I had to wear shoes you could slip off, because I would have to take my shoes off, dry them on the rug by the stairs, put my shoes back on, and go up onto the stage, because I just knew I was going to just fall right out of my shoes and kill myself. And a few things that I discovered that really help make a difference. It's a neurological response we all have. It's that fight or flight response, that adrenaline flood that is preparing our bodies to fight or run away, even though we know in our minds there's not real danger. But that ancient wiring is telling us this is not a good idea. You should just be quiet and stay safe, and let's not risk anything. But what I found to be most effective in releasing that response, first of all, simplest of all, is really taking a few intentional, slow, deep breaths. Because when you think about it, if you were being chased by a tiger, you would not be breathing deeply and slowly and calmly. Or if a masked man has a knife in the alley, you're not going to be breathing that way. So when you take those deep measured breaths, you tell your body in a way your body understands, that it's fine. And you carry that oxygen that's flooded your extremities back to your brain, to your midsection, to where it belongs, so that you can regroup. And so that's one tactic. Another thing, I don't know if you have ever been nervous either about speaking or something else, and you are shaking, whether it's your hands, your arms. Sometimes my legs shake. And what that is that flood of adrenaline that is telling you that we're ready to go. It's readying your muscles because we're about to either fight somebody or run for our lives. And I can remember times walking up to speak and worrying that my legs were shaking so much. First of all, could people see it? And second of all, might I fall? And I found that when I'm standing right by those stairs, just waiting for my turn, I would flex my thighs. I would flex my bottom. I would just flex those big muscle groups as hard as I could 2 or 3 times. And truly, it pumps that adrenaline out of that muscle tissue. So very simple thing to do, just flex. The other thing, the third thing, and the other tactic I really love that is simple and physical. I was talking to a coach one time, and I was talking about being anxious about something. It was some sort of opportunity, and I was all in my head about it. And she said to me, Lori, I want you to pull in your stomach, pull up your bottom, and now tell me your problems. And when you pull in your tummy, tuck up your bottom, you can't think about your problems because you have brought your attention from your head down back into your body, into your heart, into your core. And I find the same can work when you're preparing to speak. When you're letting your head run away with you, all of the worries about ourselves. How will I look? What if I say something dumb? What if I fall? What if I forget? And you tighten your tummy, pull up your bottom, bring your focus back into the core of you, and you can serve from your heart and get out of your stinking head that's telling you this is a bad idea and it's not going to go well. So those are my 3 tactics for diffusing that physical response that makes us shaky and sweaty.
I love that you're saying that. I was speaking with someone recently, and I had been connected by Lachelle Atkins with this wonderful woman, Jenny, who was running a conference. And Jenny interviewed us, fortunately, for her conference. And it was a subject I was really comfortable with, but it really caused me to dial into the fact that I was about to do LinkedIn Lives. I hadn't announced it to anyone. And Jenny had to coax me. She's like, Mel, I know you have a secret. Is there something you want to share? And I cracked up because her conference was starting right after I started Impossible Alive. And what I cracked up about was, at the same time, I was doing mental fitness. So mental fitness through positive intelligence. And there were these amazing PQ reps. So it's the tactile process of listening for a sound or touching our fingers, something that we could do really quickly to kind of bring us back and shift us out of the saboteurs that are kind of hijacking us and take us to what we call the sage powers. But at that time, I didn't realize during the interview, I needed to breathe. And so I started doing the PQ reps, and she asked me this question, and I could tell like her eyes lit up before she asked it. It really helped me tell the story of how I felt like I was shed my own personal muzzle. How, I remember being so nervous the first time someone handed me a microphone for an event that we had been planning for 3 months, that I was co-chairing, that I knew intimately every single detail of. And somebody handed me a mic, and my co-chair, he was the chairman of the board, we greet you. Bill of Captain's Club Cruises greet you with like the Disney hat. So he always would bring like that extrovert life of the party and invite you in. And I'm like, he's handing me the mic. And he just looked at me. He's like, you've got this. The back of my mind, I was like, oh, parents are here.
Mm, mm,
Board of directors. You think of the audience, you get stuck in the little things. And
mhm,
he hands me this mic, and I didn't know how far to hold it. And I hadn't held a microphone in years.
mhm, mhm,
And it really took me through a little ride until I actually remembered to breathe.
mm.
And
Yeah.
I was so nervous. I was like, everybody, ooh, the mic works. And the whole room started laughing. And it was good because there was food, there were beverages. We were there for a casino night. We ended up having a really good high energy time. But there were so many announcements in the beginning that I was really grateful that when it came to the prizes, somebody else took the mic, and for the need for speed after entertainment, they took over. But I ended up like walking around with that mic and the mic switch off, but I was just like, what do I do with this? And I, we were trained in theater. So you were on a stage, you had no problem projecting, but you couldn't necessarily see who you were speaking with.
Uh-huh.
But it's kind of, who am I speaking with?
Uh-huh.
What do they want to know? What do they need to know?
Mm.
And kind of, I had something in my pocket. I think I had a coin. I ended up with my hands fiddling in my pocket with the coin. But I remember just at all of the shakes, the sweats, I call them swivers because it should be shivers. But I was just like, you feel almost restless,
Right.
and I'm laughing at that as I put up the question. But I think it reminds us we may not know the approach, and just like you're saying, you can speak with confidence in your workshop series. The things that you taught us, and I don't want to give it all away, but what it really hit me and helped me in your workshop series was you mentioned have a come back to the present moment.
Mhm, mhm.
So you
Yeah.
can't you don't have a chance to worry about, hey Lachelle, how you doing, beautiful? You don't have a chance to worry about what happened in the past
Mhm,
or
mhm.
what awkward things may happen in the
Right.
future. It
Yep.
brings you back to
Yeah.
the now. It was the breath part, I knew to do that,
Mhm, mhm.
and trying to your
Yeah.
baby breathing or your full calm breathing, but the come back to the present part,
Yeah.
to the present moment that you
Mhm,
said, I kept
mhm,
writing that, and Lachelle will
mhm,
crack up because she knows what I mean about the pad and the pen nearby, but you really helped center, in a sense, like you're saying, do something physical that hopefully lowers your heart rate,
mhm, mhm.
helps it remind you to smile.
Yes,
But
yep.
but
Mhm,
the what would I say, and the how would I say it? You're helping us really understand the power of public speaking. What would you say is the importance of using your voice?
mhm, mhm. I I'm trying to think of a big enough word, and I'm not coming up. I would say it is of utmost importance because the fact is we are made for connection. We are built for connection. And the way we connect with one another is we get to by getting to know one another. And that means I want to know who is Mel? What are you about? What do you care about? Where are you from? What have you experienced? What have you overcome? What have you learned? What are you passionate about? Where have you been and where are you going? And we have to, the conduit we have to connect in meaningful ways is through speaking to one another, through communicating to one another. And the other thing I truly believe is that your story, the experiences you've learned, the stories you've lived, the lessons you've learned and earned along the way, the ones you wanted and the ones you didn't, It's a gift to you to help you learn to navigate the world, to give you context for the world, to help you discover who you are and what you're about. But it's not just a gift for you. It's a gift you can use to help other people along, because when you help someone else, it helps you too. I heard, I don't know if you know, there's a woman named Cathy Heller, and she has a podcast that used to be called Don't Keep Your Day Job. And now I think it's just called the Cathy Heller podcast or show. But at least the opening used to say that the opposite of depression is not happiness, it is purpose. And I believe we find purpose when we grow and when we give. When you are growing and learning something new, stretching yourself, leaning forward, we find purpose. And when you help someone else along, we find purpose. And to me, sharing your story and sharing your experience through speaking, whether it's with 3 people, 3,000, 3 million, it's the sweet spot. It's the magical place where both of those things come together, stretching and growing and serving and giving.
I'm so grateful for replays because I couldn't have written that quickly enough. I'm loving too that, in the comments, others are acknowledging the shakes.
Yes, the shake.
I had him as a BNI member before that first 10-minute spotlight presentation.
Yep.
I know a wonderful woman in the room. I knew to drink water, lots of water, be well hydrated.
Yes.
And this wonderful woman kept rubbing my hands.
Oh.
And Antoinette, I found out later, was doing Reiki on me.
Oh,
she
yeah.
could almost see the shakes.
Mm-hmm.
She could see the room's getting hot. There's no place to go.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate it because 𝘱𝘶 is saying it, straight up. She says she loves this conversation. For those who don't have an Antoinette around them doing Reiki, what would you suggest in the nerves if you're really under the hot spot, and that means you're not necessarily in a podcast chair in a comfortable seat where people aren't seeing you speak?
Yeah.
How do you slow things down so that, like, I know how to do it now with mental fitness. I'm really, really grateful to have the pattern interrupt. But when you're in front of an audience, no matter what the size, or you could be in an interview trying to, let somebody just know your gems, or in front of a board, but in front of diverse audiences, what would you suggest to dial in? Is there something you would say to yourself to just slow it down and maybe stop the shakes, other than, the nervous, restless,
Yeah. A couple things. The first, from the purely physical, as I said, it is, I remember I had, like, how you have a near miss in the car, like somebody pulls out in front of you and it's close, no accident, but it's really close. And have you ever found yourself shaking, like your hands are shaking or your legs? And it's that same thing. It's that adrenaline response. But the beautiful thing is we really can just flex those muscles and it will pump that adrenaline that's flooded our muscles back out of the way. It's really simple, but I have always found it to work. If I think to do it, I have found it to work. The other thing that comes with practice and comes with time is getting comfortable with pauses. Because as a speaker, or when we step up to speak, either our nerves can make us go fast, or we feel like we need to fill the space. I heard a great vocal coach explain. He said, he was talking about filler words, the ums and the uhs and all of that. And he said that we use filler words in conversation So, I'm still speaking. Like, it's still my turn. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, but it's still my turn. And so we use those fillers, which is a really great point. But when you're a speaker, it's your turn. It's always your turn. So you don't have to fill the gaps, but you do have to practice getting comfortable with those pauses and reframe in your mind that those pauses are really a gift to let your audience process and keep up with you. Because so often, I'm sure you have and I have, we've been in a setting where you're absolutely interested in, you want to know, you want to learn the topic, but the information is coming like a fire hose and our brains just can't keep up. And so you just sort of check out because you're lost. Your brain can't keep up. Your brain has two jobs to keep us alive and conserve energy. And the minute it decides this is way too much work, it's out. You start thinking about your grocery list. And so as a speaker, getting comfortable with pausing helps you combat those filler words, helps you pace yourself, and helps your audience process what you're saying and keep up with you and really be able to internalize what you're sharing, because you're sharing something that can help them, but it can't help them if they can't take it in.
That makes sense. And Nathalie's sharing with us, thanks again for popping in, is that pauses are the best tip for her. One of the hard things I remember when speaking from confidence, and especially that time I was mentioning before, when they put the mic in my hand, I had to remember, as Tabitha saying, about the purpose. And Tabitha is a dynamic woman with an amazing business, keeping your kids safe. So she helps with, and Tabitha, I put it in the chat if I'm about to, say this in a way that's not the way to currently express, but she helps parents and those loved ones and other people who are waiting for your child to come home from school, let you know that your child is making it home safe, that they're on the right bus. And she started this wonderful, wonderful business. After this happened to her niece was put on the wrong bus twice.
Oh gosh.
So the thing is, in her industry, she's in the safety industry, where at the same time you're trying to inspire educators, school board people, and sometimes, in a sense, when we're trying to speak with confidence, the person we're speaking with, just like you said about the fire hose and the shopping list, our purpose is not their purpose. I remember years ago, I appreciated it. Dr. Ivan Meisner said at a BNI event, "Who here came to buy?" And one person raised their hand. There were over 100 and some odd people in the room.
Yeah.
Maybe 125. I had volunteered for check-in. And this one person says, "I came to buy something." And he's like, "What'd you come to buy?" And she says, I need cosmetics, makeup from my consultant." And he said, "Did you tell her beforehand?" She says, "No, she knows now." And the room started laughing. And he said, "Everyone else who came with the purpose of selling someone else a product, this is the only person who came prepared to invest today in a service or a product." So the thing is, when you don't have, as you're speaking with confidence, not even talking about sales or the sales process or getting our messages, lined up, or, separating the marketing and the sales, but when you have a mission, and in Tabitha's case, she's got kind of a mission-based business. And it's hard to understand, why don't you care about the safety of children? That's what people's responses can kind of, come back as.
Right.
How would you break down the purpose without it feeling like it's one of those yes, no, call survey things that you're doing? How do you fire in and attach your confidence to
Mhm.
the purpose, not necessarily of the caller, but to the purpose the
Mhm.
viewer may have, that lens that the viewer or the listener or the reader
Yeah.
has.
Mhm.
How do you drill
Mhm.
down into that, Lori?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if the two, if I had to say the top two principles about public speaking, I would say the first is authenticity. You have to be yourself. The second is it's always about the audience. It's never about what you want to share, what you came to sell, the story you want to tell. It is about the audience. It's about what you have for them, what you want to teach them to help them know or think or do differently. And then everything you share is in service of that goal. And so with the question about Tabitha's business and about connecting, we want to think we make decisions logically, but we know we make decisions emotionally, and then we work to justify them logically. And the most effective vehicle for connecting with another human on an emotional level, for engaging interest, and for compelling action is story. So thinking about Tabitha, my first inclination would be to start a presentation like that with a story, maybe the story of her niece and being put on the wrong bus more than once, what happened, how that felt to her parents or to her caregivers, and how that why created this business to help other kids and parents and families not have to have that same worry or not have to experience that same error. And I would absolutely start with story, why it matters, the heart behind what she's doing, because that's what we want to connect with. There may not be other businesses in the world that sell that same service or product, but for most of us, there are dozens, if not hundreds of other people. I'm a speaker coach. How many speaker coaches do you think there are in the world? I'm sure there are thousands. The one thing that I have that is unique to me is my experience, my background, my why, my personality, and my vibe that will attract the right people, and it won't be the right fit for the wrong people. That's the only thing we have to offer that is unique. And if you want to connect with someone on a human level, it's going to be a story.
I struggled with that. I can't thank you for saying that for Tabitha. And
Hmm.
I, I struggled with it. Jonathan Howard of JRH Graphics and Successful in Social has been such a patient friend in terms of helping me explore the power of story. And you, in your workshop series, helped me break it down to the point where I could start practicing which story
Mhm.
might be of interest
Mhm.
to a specific listener.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part when we show up. If it's communicating things in terms of our business, there's the facts and the data part.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was having a conversation in the process of preparing to release my beta course and preparing for a masterclass, Creating Connections to Scale, that'll be coming up shortly,
Mhm.
in starting to talk about what was important to the listener, not what's important to
Right.
someone who now will have a digital product to sell.
Mhm. Mhm.
And at the same time, understanding we approach things from a setup perspective, always without like that frame part.
Mhm.
And I think, as you would say, starting from I'm human part,
Yes.
human
Yeah.
to human, almost so you can feel or kind of see the hand
Mhm.
that is reaching out to you. You can decide whether to accept it, and the pausing to breathe and looking in somebody's eyes. And but I think the thing is, our fragile world sometimes can beat the crap out of you, for a lack of a better word, to the point where you're not sure
Yeah.
on certain days what your confidence is. I had a challenging project to do last week. I checked in on Friday with, I'd say, probably every member of my go-to strategic powerhouse team. You know, I was grateful for two extremely generous women for calling me back. And Lachelle is one of them. You know, she has 15 children and made the time on Veterans Day while celebrating her husband, you know,
Wow.
to but the context, I think, of what Lachelle is saying
Yes.
is that if it can be combined, the context and the purpose. But I think, as Lori's saying, it's always that context of the listener, of the reader of a post.
Right.
Lori writes a post, and I'm like, I'm there. It's not even a joke, and she'll laugh. I'm like, Lori could put the same post on Facebook and LinkedIn in the same day. I will read them, and probably have a different response to each, because each time I read them, she's connecting, but helping me think about something that I didn't think about. But I think that confidence piece, and people call it mindset, you know, they call it, what I love is you mentioned in your presentation about having a skill set. And that part, I
Yeah.
think, of building confidence might be something. Feel
Yeah.
free to tell some more stories and gems on that, Lori, so that we can get more of your gems.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So that workshop you attended, it's a program I call Speak with Confidence, and I call it the mindset and the skill set to overcome the fear and then to intentionally cultivate confidence. And it's really built from what I learned when I went from no public speaking to walking onto the stage in front of thousands. And honestly, the first thing I had to do was manage those darn physical symptoms. And so that's what I call the skill set. Then the mindset part of it is, we know action always follows belief. And so one of those C's that cultivate confidence is having a commitment to your purpose, which is, if you're Tabitha, your purpose is that you are going to help more kids get home safe and more parents not have to worry. And because of that, you're going to share that message loud and proud, and you're not going to let the fear stand in the way, because it's not about you, it's about them. It's about the kids and the families you want to help. If you, Mel, you're teaching about the value of connections and how connections can be meaningful in growing your business. Well, it's not about you, it's about the people you want to help learn how to and why to connect effectively. So it's the commitment that can bring courage and cultivate confidence. So I'll tell you that when I mentioned that when I first was given the opportunity to MC, the only person I'd ever seen MC was my boss, Mary, who she was my boss, but she also was the most impactful mentor I've ever had in my life, and personally and professionally. And as I said, she was a master communicator. She was just a naturally gifted storyteller. She had a story in response to every situation, and I still remember dozens of them. And I was scared to death, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to do this thing that was put in front of me, which was to step up to begin hosting these events. And so I did something that I laugh at now, but it made sense at the time. And because of my job producing the event, not only had I sat by the stage and watched Mary work her magic countless hours, but I also had access to the footage. And so I watched hours of footage, and I made myself a little Mary script, and I went and bought a little Mary-like suit, and I walked up the stairs that first time in Calgary, and I got my Mary Graham on. And I survived the weekend. Like, nothing really noteworthy happened. Nobody booed or threw anything. And I didn't fall to my death or throw up or what. I mean, it was fine. It was all fine. We all survived, and I was thrilled. And we would ask the audience to provide evaluations for us, and we would send them off to a data entry company. And midway through the following week, we would get that info. And every week I was interested in that information because I booked the speakers and I worked with the program, and I needed to know what was resonating and what needed improvement. But of course, that week, I had a little more skin in the game. And the email came and the evaluations came, and it was just an Excel sheet with thousands of comments. And I'm just scrolling, and you know what I'm looking for. And I'm getting to the very end, and nobody said anything about the MC until truly one of the last few comments. A sweet lady wrote, "The Mary Graham clone creeps me out." And I thought, well, ain't it the truth? Because it was weird, because I was not being myself. I was trying to be what I thought I needed to be. I was trying to be someone else. So that's where I learned, principle numero uno, which is the importance of being yourself. But I do some speaking to leadership groups about the power of story. And I share that story, and then I share my favorite part, which was Mary's response to me. And, she didn't have to say anything to me. I certainly got the picture, or she could have responded in any number of ways, but she responded as she normally did, which was to tell me a story. And Mary had worked for 35 years for a college ministry called Campus Crusade. And she started helping produce events on college campuses. And she told me she still remembered decades later, one of the comment cards at her first event said, "I loved everything except the girl in the gray dress." And Mary said, "Would you like to guess what I was wearing?" And then she said, "I hope you'll stick with it because it will get better." And I did, and it did. And Mary connected with me and empathized with me and encouraged me more through that girl in the gray dress story than she could have any other way.
It is such a reminder that the things that we look for, and in the process of trying to do some deep writing last week, I went through, just as you're saying, I went through some evaluation sheets, looking for suggestions, looking for the words, looking for the descriptions of how to change things. And the real reminder, and I mean, for me to almost pull an all-nighter, and people who know me, I love my naps and I like to sleep. And, it was a chance, to like chill out after, the time change and on a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
And I think what you're reminding us is the skill also of how we look at ourselves is really a key, if not to confidence, to the appearance of calm.
Yeah.
Because I think that day about the Reiki Antoinette did, so I finally calmed down, and I was able to hold the handout that everybody else had without my fingers or my hand visibly shaking. But I think that reminder, as you would say, I think it's the core of tapping into some sort of wellspring, whether it's look at a picture of someone you love, look out and find friendly, smiling eyes.
Yes. Yep.
The challenge is sometimes is during an interview, there's no friendly face in the room.
Yeah.
And I think, 𝘭𝘭𝘠𝘀, who was one of our guests recently, of be your number one cheerleader, gotta cheer yourself on. Whatever you call yourself, to call yourself the most positive, loving, kind words, whether they're on an evaluation or not, or whether you feel it or see it in somebody's eyes. I'm appreciative, like you're saying, great mentors, great coaches, great inspiration. We really need that wellspring. But I'm also grateful to ask questions of people who we know care enough about the human at the other end.
Yep.
So speak to ourselves with confidence in order to do what Lori's suggesting, to channel the you can speak with confidence. And in that gap, this amazing, stellar, wonderful woman has great links and you should see her rock a stage. So when you're looking for a speaker to delight, to welcome, to, as Tabitha said, thank you for those insights.
You're welcome.
And Lachelle, they're sending you thanks and love in the chat, but I can't thank you enough for joining us today. For you can speak with confidence, and anytime you're ready, we are so here. You know, we are so here. You let me know the date, and we are really really good to kind of hang out and reconnect. But
Love it. Love it.
I want to send you hugs and smiles across the miles. And
Mm.
thank you for joining us today and gracing us with your gems.
Mm. Thank you.
Brightening. Thank you so much. You're warming up a chilly day.
Well, and Mel, on behalf of your audience, of which I am one, I applaud you for always showing up, always sending smiles across the miles, always making connections. I don't know if I could count on both hands the number of meaningful connections that you have made for me, connecting me with other incredible women doing amazing things. And that is who you are. And that is one of the great gifts you give to the world. And you are not stingy about it. You are absolutely generous in giving your insight, giving your connections, and giving encouragement. And I just, on behalf of all of us, we love you. And I thank you for the way you so generously serve.
I greatly appreciate you, and I learned it from very, very talented, generous people. So very grateful to reflect it forward. And as entrepreneurs, as people, if we don't locate the resources, we end up frustrated. We end up stuck, feeling like we're in a tunnel or a deep hole, and
all by ourselves.
There's nobody there to kind of lend a hand or support. And Lachelle's letting us know she did an interview last week. And
that's so
it is
right. Yeah.
Over time we grow.
Right. Truly the key for me in public speaking has been just deciding to get over myself and just try to help somebody else. And if I look stupid along the way, wouldn't you, I'm going to look stupid along the way sometimes. Wouldn't you rather look stupid trying to help someone than just look stupid, being a selfish jerk? And so I had a coach who told me about a conversation with her coach who called her on the phone and said, stop taking this, so stinking seriously. And I think when I started having a blast hosting the events I've hosted, speaking to groups, it's when I decided I'm going to show up, I'm going to have a great time, and I'm going to try to help someone along the way. And the people this is for, I just pray that it connects with them. And if it's not for you, I pray that you feel loved on and encouraged along the way. And you just show up and give your thing and trust that it lands where it's supposed to land.
Thank you for reinforcing our faith walk and our spirits, and for your amazing gems, and just for joining us today.
Thank you, Mel.
And I hope everybody who's joining us live or for a replay, pop in, follow Lori, share a replay, tag a woman or a person or a great human who can learn a little bit more about how you can speak with confidence from Lori today. And have a magnificent day. Take great care. Be well.